Welcome back to the Los Alamitos preview show. As mentioned earlier, we begin our 2016 Los Alamitos Fall Thoroughbred season here this past Thursday with a new voice for the daytime thoroughbred racing. Good friend of mine, he's been a race caller down at Calder Racecourse in Florida for about 12 or 13 years and back into California. Bobby Neuman is the race caller for the Los Alamitos Fall Thoroughbred season. And to get an insight into Bobby Neuman, here's Orlando Gutierrez talking to Bobby.
Well, the Los Alamitos Fall Thoroughbred meet opens this weekend here at Los Alamitos Racecourse. 12 days of world-class thoroughbred racing action here at Los Alamitos. And the man calling all the action for this meet is Bobby Neuman. We know him from calling the races at Calder for many, many years. But tell us a little bit about your background in horse racing, specifically as a track announcer.
I've called races all over the country. I actually got my start. I went to the University of Arizona's racetrack industry program. Started calling on the Arizona Fair circuit out there, calling little half-mile and 5/8 tracks. Ended up calling races up in Idaho at Sandy Downs, out in Cleveland at Thistledown, even called a harness meet at the Red Mile in Lexington, Kentucky, and ended up going to Calder, being their paddock host in 1999, and eventually becoming their track announcer until Calder basically closed a couple of years ago.
How early on did you know that you wanted to be a track announcer for a living, for your career?
One of the first times I ever went to the track at Hollywood Park, I brought a Sony Walkman with me, and I practiced calling races at the end of the grandstand, into the Walkman, holding a program in one hand, binoculars and a Walkman in the other hand. And I said, you know what? I love the races. This seems like a good way that I can actually make money instead of losing money, because my handicapping wasn't very good at the time. And it was just something I always liked to do. You get to be right in the thick of the action, and you get to be at the racetrack.
Now, one of the race calls that I know you for is you call the world's fastest daily double at Calder, right? Tell us a little bit about that experience.
Yeah, Calder had the first extreme day in racing. It was we had it for a couple of years. In the world's fastest daily double, we had two races going at the same time. We had a 5/8 dirt race and a 1 mile turf race, and they tried to make them end at about the same time. They ended up starting too close together, so they didn't end at the same time. But to make things interesting, I would call 4 horses in one race, switch to the other track, and go back and forth and back and forth. It was a little bit of tough to figure out who was where, but we got it all done, and it was a lot of fun.
Now, lately, what have you been doing now most recently?
I've been out of racing for the most part for the last 2 years. I still call the races at Ocala Breeder Sales. They have races once a year there. I opened my own business. It's a fitness business out in South Florida. I may open a couple more, but still love the game, still follow it religiously, and so happy to be back here in Los Angeles.
Who's your favorite horse?
My favorite horse was a filly that John Sadler trained named Mel Air. She was 5 for 5 in her career. She raced in the mid-'80s. She ran the most amazing 1 mile race I had ever seen, a race called the Silver Screen Handicap. She beat horses like Snow Chief running against the boys that day. She went 1:32.4 for the mile. The most amazing thing to me was she led the whole way. She went 8 flat for 6 furlongs, 19-4 for 7 furlongs. I had never seen a 7 furlong split other than 120 in my life until then, and then out in 1:32.4, still the fastest filly I'd ever seen, and she retired undefeated.
Well, we're so happy to have Bobby Neuman here calling the Fall Thoroughbred meet here at Los Alamitos. It all gets underway this weekend. Why don't you join us this weekend at Los Alamitos Racecourse for some great racing action? Back to the studio.
Well, thanks, Orlando. And, you know, Bobby Neuman reminded me back in 1990, and I don't recall this too much, that during the daytime I was out at Hollywood Park to watch some races. Refrigerator was running on the Champion of Champions that night. Bobby was in his early 20s at that time, and that's the first time he met me.
Wow.
So
that name kind of it clicked for maybe like for a minute or two. Same Bobby Neuman.
Same Bobby Neuman,
Yeah,
and he of course was the race caller down at Calder Racecourse in Florida for 12 or 13 years, and I think he's going to do a great job for us here at the Fall Thoroughbred meeting. Well, time now to get back to